Have you ever wondered how the stuff you buy gets to you? It feels simple, right? You click a button and a box shows up. But behind that simplicity is a system so complex and fragile, it's a miracle it works at all. And sometimes it doesn't. On March 23, 2021, a massive container ship, the Ever Given, got stuck in the Suez Canal. For 6 days, it blocked one of the most important shipping lanes in the world. It was like a traffic jam, but on a global scale. Every single day, nearly $10 billion in trade was held up. Suddenly, oil prices jumped. People in Europe worried about toilet paper shortages again. And furniture stores in the US told customers their new couches would be months late. All because of one ship in one canal. This one incident showed us a hidden truth. Our entire world is connected by invisible threads. The products in our homes are part of a massive, tangled web. A single snag in one part of that web can cause chaos everywhere else. To understand modern life, you have to understand the supply chain, and how its incredible efficiency is also its greatest weakness. Take your smartphone. It's a perfect example of this invisible architecture. Its parts come from over 40 different countries. The minerals are mined in the Congo, the chips are made in Taiwan, the screens in South Korea, and it's all put together in China, running software designed in California. Before it ever reaches your hand, it's been on ships, planes, and trucks, crossing multiple continents. This complexity isn't an accident. For decades, companies have chased one thing: efficiency. Why make everything in one expensive place when you can get each part from wherever it is cheapest? And best, why keep piles of parts in a warehouse when you can have them delivered just in time, right when you need them? This system drove down costs and made amazing products, like that smartphone, affordable for billions of people. The whole world became one giant, super efficient factory. But we traded something important for all that efficiency: resilience. We got rid of backups and safety nets because they looked like waste. The system became a finely tuned machine with absolutely no room for error. So what happens when something does go wrong? The disruption doesn't just spread, it cascades, growing exponentially. This happens for a few key reasons. First, we have concentration points. A small number of ports handle most of global shipping. Just two companies, TSMC and Samsung, make almost all the world's most advanced computer chips. When COVID-19 shut down factories in Malaysia, car production around the world stopped. Why? Because modern cars need hundreds of chips, and there was nowhere else to get them. These concentration points exist for good reasons. It takes decades and billions of dollars to build that kind of expertise. But each one is also a single point of failure for the entire planet. Second, there's the just-in-time manufacturing. It's brilliant for cutting costs because you don't need big, expensive warehouses. But it means even a small delay can shut down a whole factory. After the 2011 tsunami in Japan, car plants worldwide shut down within days. They had no backup inventory of Japanese-made parts. A regional disaster quickly became a global crisis. Third, we have hidden dependencies. A company knows who sells them parts, but they probably don't know who sells parts to their supplier, or their supplier's supplier. A car company buys a brake system from one supplier. That supplier buys an electronic part from another, who gets it from a manufacturer, who depends on a specific chemical from a single factory in China. If that one factory has a fire, the car company might not even know there is a problem until their production line grinds to a halt weeks later. Finally, there's something called the bullwhip effect. Imagine a small shipping delay. A retailer gets nervous and orders extra just in case. Their supplier sees the bigger order and thinks demand is rising, so they order even more from the manufacturer. By the time the signal gets to the raw material producers, a tiny hiccup has turned into a massive, perceived surge in demand. This creates huge shortages and price spikes that are totally out of proportion to the original problem during the pandemic. This is what turned a small increase in home renovation projects into a lumber shortage that saw prices quadruple. What's truly wild is that these supply chains create connections we never even knew existed. A shortage of one thing can freeze the production of something totally unrelated. The great semiconductor shortage that started in 2020 is the perfect example. It began when pandemic lockdowns drove up demand for laptops and game consoles. Chip makers switched their focus to those products, but when car factories reopened, they couldn't get the chips they needed, not just for fancy infotainment systems, but for basic things like engine controls and brake sensors. So car production stopped. But the chaos didn't end there. Medical device makers couldn't get chips for ventilators. Appliance manufacturers delayed new fridges and washing machines. A shortage in one area cascaded across dozens of industries that, on the surface, had nothing to do with each other. It even happens with boring stuff. A winter storm in Texas in 2021 damaged petrochemical plants, creating a global shortage of a simple plastic resin. Suddenly, everything from food packaging to car parts was affected. Even more shocking, most companies don't fully understand their own supply chains. A big manufacturer might work with 100 direct suppliers, but they could be indirectly dependent on 10,000 other companies they've never even heard of. Suppliers guard their own supplier lists like a trade secret. This means companies often only discover a critical weakness when it's already broken. So, why can't we just fix it? Why not just build more factories, stock up on inventory, and make things closer to home? Well, it's not that simple. Redundancy costs money. Keeping extra inventory or paying for a backup factory means higher prices for all of us. For years, the market has rewarded companies for being lean and efficient, not for being prepared for a disaster. Plus, some things just can't be easily duplicated. It takes over $20 billion and years of work to build a single cutting-edge semiconductor plant. You can't just pop up a few extras for a rainy day. And entire industries are built around just-in-time delivery. Changing that would mean redesigning factories and retraining entire workforces. It's a massive undertaking. Recreating the complex ecosystems of skilled labor and infrastructure that exist in certain parts of the world is nearly impossible. The hard truth is, we've built a global economy that is amazing in good times, but brittle and fragile when things get rough. The question isn't if another major disruption will happen, it's when. Companies are starting to adapt. They're stocking more inventory and looking for alternative suppliers, even if it costs more. Governments are investing in domestic production of critical goods like medicine and chips. New technology might help us see problems coming and react faster. But none of this changes the fundamental trade-off we've made between efficiency and resilience. The failures we're seeing aren't accidents, they're the predictable result of decades of choices. The Ever Given wasn't just a ship stuck in a canal. It was a warning sign showing us the invisible vulnerabilities that run through our entire world. We can make our supply chains stronger, but it will mean accepting that they'll also be slower and more expensive. The next global shock is coming. The real question is whether we'll be ready for it this time. Thanks for watching. If you found this interesting, consider subscribing for more deep dives into the systems that run our world.